I want to issue a correction or an apology or correction, whatever, with regards to some of my statements in the past, some of my speculation. Because one of the things about being a content creator is that you say things, you mention things, you bring things up, you have hot takes, and a lot of the times you might be super wrong. And in this case, I was super wrong in like the most hilarious and maybe cathartic way possible. So this is with regards to Activision Blizzard and Bobby Kotick. So while back, summertime or so, when the Blizzard lawsuit dropped, at the time, Bobby Kotick was kind of like above all of that. So not like morally, of course, but he wasn't really touched. You know, people were accusing him, hey, what did he know? And Kotick said, oh, I didn't know anything. And at the time, that was kind of the accepted thing. We kind of suspected, but it was accepted. And I kind of backed that up. We don't know anything. Well, let's wait and see. Cut to November or so. That was when a very blistering article by a publication whose name I unfortunately don't know off the top of my head outed Bobby Kotick as having known a lot of what's going on with the Blizzard lawsuit, things that were involved, people that were involved, and that he actively worked to cover it up through all sorts of different suppression tactics. And it came to a point where I gave several takes and opinions that, okay, this guy is probably on his way out. And this was especially after he reiterated that, yes, I'm going to stay here. I'm not, there's no reason for me to leave. And even his board of directors backed him up, saying that, okay, we're going to back him up. They're, whatever. Because now we can presume that at the time they were trying to, of course, just protect the company, protect their assets, defend that money. That's what's most important. But then cut to now. Now they're being bought out. And I had this narrative that painted Kotick as if he was intelligent. As in, okay, maybe this was like his whole plan the entire time. Cover things up, do everything that he can to keep that stock price up, so that way when he was going to sell it, then he'd be able to get away with as good of a price as possible or whatever. And his board backed him up on that. Yeah, dude, we're going to make that money. And I believed, and maybe I'm still wrong about all this too, mind you. All them banded together like a group of supervillains, like, mwahaha, we're going to come away from this rich. And don't get me wrong, there's no scenario where Kotick would leave Activision Blizzard broke. He's going to leave rich as hell, no matter what. And so our anger can be forever placed there. But as the news of the acquisition came to light, Kotick, people were making statements here and there. Kotick was making statements that tried to paint this whole thing like, oh yeah, this is totally my plan. I thought of this. This was great. This is a great deal. And it sounds like a great deal. It's a great deal. I thought of it. And there were interviews that were done, that were published later in the morning or so, such as this one from GamesBeat, where they asked, hey, the sexual harassment investigation factor in this with the buyout, what is it? How much did it factor in to this deal? And I'm gonna read off what Kotick says. He says, I think what affected the stock price more than the lawsuits was pushing out Overwatch and Diablo. And then I think people started to see that this year's Call of Duty, well, it wasn't performing so well. So I think the lawsuit filing and the Wall Street Journal article, the one that was put out in November, contributed to that. but stocks go up and down for a variety of reasons. I think our view was that $95 a share with all cash, that's a really great deal for shareholders, and that was an easy and independent judgment. It's a great deal. So with this statement, Kotick is pushing blame, and I should have known this. As soon as we found out that the statement made by Fran Townsend, as soon as the Blizzard lawsuit was revealed back during the summer, when Fran Townsend made certain statements that very, very strongly pushed back against the allegations, oh, these have no merit, blah, 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 blah. It turns out that it was Bobby Kotick that wrote those statements and used Fran Townsend as a mouthpiece to read these off. Now, don't get me wrong, Fran Townsend is probably vile for all sorts of other reasons, things that have already been mentioned on other media. But it wasn't surprising to learn that Kotick just made her say things that he wanted to say, but it just wanted to use someone else to do it, knowing that there's going to be pushback and all sorts of other stuff. So with this statement, an interview that he gave, he's basically blaming the studio for the lower stock price. Now, if I recall, when there was the most recent quarterly earnings report that indicated that Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 weren't going to come out in this year, in 2022, that they were looking for a 2023 release, the stock just tanked for understandable reasons. Oh, a delay, crap. That means whatever money that would have been made this year isn't happening. So the response from the stock market is completely understandable. But his statements here, obviously, they obfuscate the fact that, maybe the Diablo 4 delay was due to the game director being ousted for harassment allegations or actual harassment and other things that went on inside the company. Overwatch 2, I can't really speak for. We know that Jeff Kaplan left for different reasons. I think it was last year. Time doesn't have meaning anymore. But for him to kind of throw his own games and his own studios under the bus like this is, well, it's kind of pathetic, and it obviously downplays his own involvement that likely led to those studios delaying their games. And it's not just due to the lawsuit; it's due to the things that caused the Blizzard lawsuit. All these allegations and all this awful behavior going on inside the company. The fact that he's trying to cover all this stuff up and pretend that everything is okay. And so we had statements like these. However, as soon as the news of the buyout broke, from the looks of it, based on like some timestamps and whatnot, multiple articles were released at the same time. They were behind a Bloomberg paywall. So not everyone had access to this, but some folks like Jason Schreier, who was also at Bloomberg, he cut and pasted a few things out of these articles. So this article from Bloomberg writes, in an interview, Kotick said the deal has nothing to do with the controversies surrounding Activision or calls for him to step down, and that Phil Spencer of Xbox, reached out to him last year. A person familiar with the discussions who was not authorized to speak publicly said Microsoft looked at Activision's situation, given all the negative attention and pressure on Kotick, and wondered if the beleaguered CEO would be willing to do a deal. Kotick initially didn't want to sell, according to another person familiar with the talks, and also put the word out to see if any other company would outbid Microsoft. But at that point, Kotick had little leverage with his board amid the ongoing public scrutiny at his company. So now we're seeing a very different sort of picture that's being written. Kotick initially, didn't want to sell. He didn't intend to come away with trying to elevate the stock price long enough to sell to whoever, and have this whole plan of trying to exit as rich as possible. He initially didn't want to sell. He wanted to sell, from other reports, he wanted to sell to the likes of Facebook /Meta. maybe so he can get like more money or so. However, his own board was like, nah, I don't think so. And because at this point, there's so much goodwill that was lost, not just between the public and the company, but between the board and him, that they're like, no, we're going to take this deal, fuck off, basically. That's the narrative that we're coming to now. So now we have, you know, the picture that's being painted now is a CEO that has no teeth, no legs. He is, arms and legs are chopped off. He's just there. He's a lame duck. Like, that's pretty much it. He has no more power. That's how it feels to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like he has no more power in his company. Microsoft was, Microsoft got the better part of the deal, because at 45% more of the stock price or whatever, like that sounds cool and all, but what could it have been if it wasn't for these allegations that were probably a big factor that led into these game delays? Now, the delays could have happened for any number of reasons, but we can definitely look to the lawsuit and the morale dump, and of course all the other practices inside the company that probably have made their productivity, morale, and all that stuff super low, but they still put out the games that they do. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, sure. But this is where we're at. Right? This is where we're at now, where I thought that Kotick was in league with like his board, and they're like, yeah, team friendship, we're gonna do this, we're gonna come out of this rich. They probably had that idea at the time, but of course, the money talks, and the board was seeing the writing on the wall. Things are going to get worse before they get better, and from their position, the best action to take would be to effectively cut their losses and to get rid of the guy that was mostly party to those sorts of things, because he allowed, the people who committed these, the people involved with these allegations are definitely at fault. It's not like Kotick said, hey, do it, harass people, but he enabled that behavior through cover-ups, through letting people quietly leave, that sort of thing. All this poison that's inside, it's all slowly being excised, and now we're going to see the situation where, Activision Blizzard is going to be, handed over to Microsoft, and we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, the whole painting that we tried to create of Kotick as, this, the person who was trying to think like 20 steps ahead, turns out that was hardly the case. He's just a small, greedy dude that tried to hold on to as much money as possible. And he ended up getting gut punched, and he dropped a lot of that. He's still going to come out rich. Don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of catharsis in here, and humbling, because I was super wrong, but it's like the good kind of wrong, because now we're seeing the beginning of an ending that feels a little bit satisfying, just a little bit satisfying. But we're at day 2 of this news of the acquisition, and it's going to be a long road until the buyout is complete, when he is presumably kicked out, because that is pretty much that's what everyone is saying at this point. The language that has been expressed from other statements, even his own, saying that, his future is a little uncertain, so who knows what could happen before the end. But the way I see it, the day that this acquisition goes through, that's it. He's gone. Some have said that, hey, he needs to go to jail. He needs to get strung up. He needs to go away broke. I get it. That would be more catharsis, more satisfaction in part of fans and the public. I'm just happy that we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and that we're going to have an opportunity to see this company and the games made by this company to move forward, hopefully in the right direction. And that's all I got.